Let's look at how to make a correlation table in APA format using Excel and then pasting it into Word. So we start off with our data here, and here we have the data for 100 employees in a lumber company, and we have these 5 variables for each of the 100 employees, and we want to find out how these 5 variables are correlated with each other. And then we want to report it in a correlation table that's in APA format. So let's look at what we're trying to aim for. Let me bring over a Word document here with a table of correlation. And let's look at each element of it. First of all, it's got the table number up here. It says table 2, and in non-italics and in italics, it's got the title of the table, and I titled this table of correlations for main variables. And then in the actual table, we have only horizontal lines, and in this left column, we have the 5 variables that we have the data for, and we've numbered them 1 through 5. And then over here, we have the numbers 1 through 5 that correspond to the same 5 variables. So if we want to see how education and usual hours worked are correlated, we go over to education, which is 2, and look in column 1, which refers to usual hours worked, and we see it's a correlation of 0.147, not very strong. And we have this for all the different combinations of variables. Now, in the center diagonal here, we have 2 dashes, meaning that that's the diagonal, so we can easily tell where the diagonal is. And also, normally the variable would be correlated to itself with a score of 1.00, but we're not putting that in there. Sometimes the coefficient alpha, the coefficient of reliability, is put along the diagonal, often in bold, but that's for a different lesson. Now, something else to notice is that all of the correlations are either positive or negative, and the negatives have the negative sign. There's no leading 0 on the correlations, and I've reported all of the correlations to 3 decimal points. Now, APA format says you only have to do 2. I do 3 because it kind of helps see if you can tell if some are near significant or not. Now, some of the correlations I've marked with either 1, 2, or 3 asterisks, and down below I have a note, and note is written in italics with a colon, and then it goes into non-italics, and the single star means that P is less than 0.05. That means it's significant. 2 stars means that it's significant at the 0.01 level, and 3 stars at the 1,000th level. And these are all 2-tailed correlations because correlation tables are exploratory in nature. So these stars help us tell which ones are the strongest just at a glance. And this salary, and then 2 is education. That salary education correlation is the strongest in this data set. And the ones without the stars are not significant. And that means we can't be reasonably sure that they're either positive or negative. They might actually be 0, or they might be in a sign going the opposite direction of what was recorded in this sample. So we have in this note, we have what the stars mean, which ones are significant, that they're labeled 2-tailed. I've also put in the sample size, n equals 100, and that's, I think it's always good to have the sample size available. And then usual hours worked, education, salary, age, the direction of those all make sense. We know what happens when they go up. But sex is a categorical variable, so there's no natural sense to what a higher number for sex means than a lower number. So we need to be clear that we've arbitrarily assigned these numbers, 1 for male and 2 for female, meaning that the higher numbers refer to females. So the correlation between sex and salary was minus 0.243, which means as sex goes up, when we're talking about females, the salary goes down, and that's a significant correlation. So that's why I noted what the values for sex there, so that people can whoever reads this can make sense out of the the sign there. Okay, so this is what we're aiming for. So let's go to our data table here, and we need to make sure you have the data analysis tool turned on. I'm going to go to data analysis. I'm going to choose correlation as our tool. I'm going to click OK. And for the input range, I'm going to choose C5, the usual hours worked. I'm going to shift arrow and then shift control down and circle all 5 of those variables. They're grouped by columns. We've got labels in first row, and I'm going to put them in a new worksheet ply, and I'm going to call this worksheet ply correlation table. And I press OK. And over on this tab, this new tab, correlation table, I have this. Now, it's put it up in the corner. I don't want it up in the corner, so I'm going to do, while it's still selected, I'm going to do Control X. I'm going to put it down here more in the middle. I'm going to put an H7, Control V, and it's moved over there. So let's start playing around with some of these things. Let's shorten the decimal points right away. Let's select all of the numbers, and rather than putting 2 decimal points that would round this education to 0.15, APA doesn't want zeros at the beginning of correlation. So I am going to format cells, and we are going to go to custom formatting, and I'm supposed to type in the formatting that I want, and I just want 0.00. I don't want any zeros in front, and I'm going to go for 3 decimal points. So I press OK, and this has put all of the correlations down into there's no zeros in front and 3 significant figures, except for the ones. Now let's go to home. Now let's center them. Now they're all centered there. And these ones I'm going to change to 2. Whoops. I need to press enter at the end. Whoops, we found a typo and tried to correct it to single quotation dash dash. Yes, we want that. So let's put that in for all of them. Single quotation dash dash, enter. Single quotation dash dash, enter. Single quotation dash dash, enter. Oops, I must not put the right thing. And let's try it one more time here. Single quotation dash dash, enter. And there we have our basic numbers there. Now let's put everything in Times New Roman. I'm going to select all of these columns here. And let's go to font, and we're going to type in Times New Roman, enter. I turned everything into Times New Roman, and we want it to be 12 point. So we've put that in there now. So now we've got everything in Times New Roman, 12-point font, 3 decimal points, no zeros. We've got the dashes along the lines now. Now let's make this column wider so that we can read everything. And the variable names that we have are usual hours worked, education in years. Now it doesn't matter what the units are in correlations, because correlations are unitless. Yearly earnings, I think salary is a more normal word for that. So I'm going to put salary, age, and then sex, 1 equals male. Now we don't need that 1 equals male here. We're going to put that in the notes, but let's keep it there for a while so that we don't forget about it. Now we also want to put in numbers here. So I'm going to go back and do 1 dot space, enter. Education is going to be 2 dot space enter. Salary is going to be, oh, there's an extra space there, so I deleted it. 3 dot space enter. Age is going to be 4 dot space enter. And sex is going to be 5 dot space enter. And now over here, instead of usual hours works, which doesn't fit there, I'm just going to put 1 period. I'm going to do tab, 2 period. Well, actually, we don't need the periods. 3, 4, and 5. And now let's take these out of italics. Turn the italics off there. And we have this is starting to look pretty good as our correlation table. Now let's see, let's take a look at what we're supposed to be getting. I'll go back here. And so we have most of these things. We don't have the stars yet. We have the numbers, the variable names, and what's before and what's after we don't have yet. So let me get that out of there. And so let's go up to 4 lines above. I'm going to type in table to notice that since I changed the whole columns to Times New Roman, that this new, what I just typed in there is Times New Roman again. And over here in this middle blank line, 2 lines above, I'm going to put in the title, and the title goes in italics, and we're going to put in table of correlations for main variables. And then down below, skipping a line, we are going to put in Control I, because the word note is in italics. Turn the italics off. And now we're going to do star, then Control IP, Control I to turn it off, space, less than, space, 0.05 is going to be 1 star, comma, space, and 2 stars is going to be, we'll do P less than 0.01, Control IP, Control I, space, less than, space, 0.01, and then finally 3 stars, comma, space, 3 stars, and let's turn Control I for P, Control I off, P less than 0.001, and these are all going to be 2-tailed. So we'll put that in their note there, and we put a period in there. Now let's, what we need to do is we've got to figure out which of these are significant at the 5% level, at the 1% level, and at the 1 out of 1,000 level. So let's get the critical value calculator, and you can download that from the link beneath the video, right in the paragraph right below the video that you're watching. And what we need to do is this critical value of our calculator, we need to enter the sample size. So our sample is 100, and we're going to start off with an alpha level of 0.05, and we press enter, and it gives the critical value of 0.1966. So any value any correlation with an absolute value greater than 0.1966. So I'm just going to put some temporary notes here. So 0.05 is going to be 0.1966. And we'll erase these later. And let's put some those stars by all of these. Now, this 0.228, that's going to be significant, but look at the format of it. It has we'd made that special format with just 3 decimal points and no leading zero. The actual number is different. So we need to change this. We're going to delete the 0.22, just leave the 0.228, put the star in, and that will change it to a text, and delete that 0, press enter, and so now it looks like the right thing. So this one is greater than 0.1966 also, so 0.413. So let's delete that and put 0.413 star. What other ones are significant? This one is greater than 0.1966, so 0.305. So I'm going to delete everything there, retype 0.305, put the star, enter. And here we've got a negative correlation. So the absolute value of this one is greater than our critical value, 0.1966. So I'm going to change this to minus 0.243 star. I'll delete the whole thing. Minus 0.243 star, enter. Whoops, we found a typo. We tried to correct it. No, we don't want that correction. We want, let's put the single quotation mark in front to let us know that it's text. There, and that single quotation doesn't show up. Okay, so now we've got the ones that are significant at the 5% level. Let's go back to our critical value of our calculator and find what's significant at the 0.01 level. So I'm going to change alpha to 0.01. And now the critical value is 0.2565. Let's move this out of the way. And we're going to go to 0.01 is 0.2565. And we look for the correlations that are greater than 0.2565. And this one is, so we can add another star to that. This one is also 0.305, so we can add a second star to that. Star. And I don't see any others that have an absolute value greater than 0.2565. So we've got 2 that are significant at the 0.05 level. Now there might not be any at 0.01 in many of the correlations, but let's check. And if there's not, we'll take out the 3 stars. So we're going to change this alpha to 0.001. We're going to use the sample size calculator, the sample size of n equals 100 again. And our critical value becomes 0.3242. So let's put that here, 0.3242, and that's for our 0.001 level. And do we have any that strong? Yep, sure enough here, the salary and education is that strong. So we'll put 3 stars in there. And now we've got all of the significant correlations marked there. Now we can delete these. We don't need these anymore. We just wanted to figure out which ones were significant at those levels. So let's go back to our note. And we're going to put in N. So Control I to put the N in italics. Turn off the italics, Control I, space equals 100, period. And now let's explain what the sex means. So we can type for sex, 1 equals male, space, 2 space equals space female, period. And so that will give us a good explanation of what's going on there. Now we can go back to this 5th aerial sex and take off that 1 equals male. And here we have our APA formatted table. So let's copy this into Word. So I'm going to copy all of the columns that we've written into. Control, copy. Now let's go to, let me get a new Word document going here. Bring it over, and I do Control V. Now we need to go down to the paste options and make sure that we use the source formatting if you don't have that as default. And here we have a correlation table for our 5 main variables in APA format.